Civilization VII in VR has arrived exclusively on the MetaQuest 3 and 3S headsets.
Get ready to experience Sid Meier's Civilization from a whole new perspective with Civilization VII VR, launching on April 10th exclusively on MetaQuest 3 and 3S.
Sup everyone, it's D Scruffles from the Ruff Talk VR podcast crew, and today we're talking about Civilization VII in VR, exclusive on the MetaQuest 3 and 3S headsets. Thank you again to the MetaQuest Creator Program and 2K for granting us that awesome early access. And this isn't some skimmed down version. This is the full Civilization VII experience built from the ground up for VR and mixed reality. Longtime listeners of the show will know how much we have asked for Civilization to come to VR, to come to standalone headsets, and it's here. So after playing with it for some days, we have some thoughts. Let's start with the quick facts. Civilization VII VR is coming exclusively to the MetaQuest 3 and 3S headsets on April 10th for $59.99 US dollar on the MetaQuest. This game is made in partnership between Firaxis Games, as well as a studio with a little bit more VR experience with Playside Studios, and of course published by 2K. For you storage space junkies, the game is going to be 11 gigabytes on the MetaQuest. Before we get into the opinion parts, let's get into what the game is. Once you start the game, after selecting if you're going to play a solo game or a multiplayer game, which if this is your first time in the Civilization series, I highly recommend starting solo and learning your way there. But after you decide which game mode you're going to play, from there it's time to pick your world leader, which Civilization VII features a small divergence from the series with the other titles, where world leaders and civilizations were locked in together. Civilization VII instead has you pick the world leader and the civilization that you're going to use for that age. As well, every time you advance through different ages in the game, I always start the earliest I can, the Antiquity age. You will be changing your civilization throughout the game. Again, this isn't something that's VR specific. This is a Civilization VII divergence from the series. But it's actually something that makes a lot of sense when you play the game, instead of being locked into one play style through the different ages when your goals of what you're going to be doing in each age are very different. This allows you to dynamically change your play style to fit the evolving world around you in your civilization save. After you pick your world leader and your civilization and you load in the game, which of course the game features various settings to customize your experience, including game speed, which this is one change for this game that they use to VRify it, you could say. The game defaults at online game speed, which is 2 times game speed on flat screen. This allows a much quicker experience by default in VR, usually allowing you to get through a whole age within, one battery session. But for you Civ junkies like myself that love that one more turn, you can, of course, change the game speeds for a much longer play session. You can also adjust the map sizes as well as the map type with different continent layouts and such. It defaults to tiny, which people like me, they think the grander the better. But in talking with the developers and something you will experience when you play it, tiny isn't a bad way to start when you play the game. Once you load in, if you start in VR mode, you're going to be in this gorgeous environment with a huge war table in front of you. This war table allows you to easily navigate your playing field and get up close and personal with your units. And then mixed reality mode brings it to a whole nother level. You can literally place your empire in your living room wherever you want. The war table in mixed reality mode, you can move around and make it very small or very big, and cover almost your entire living room area and get very up close and personal with those troops. Me personally, I actually prefer to play with a little bit of a smaller war table. Then you can also move around with the joystick of where you're going to be looking on the map. This allows you to feel in complete control of your play environment. As well, in mixed reality and virtual reality, when you encounter the world leaders, they appear around your table. But in mixed reality, that means those world leaders are in your living room. Seeing Xerxes chilling next to my living room table was definitely a highlight. Everything about this version is optimized for VR and MR on the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S. A reimagined UI that makes sense for natural VR interactions, a faster default playing session speed, like I mentioned before, with defaulting to the online. You can also find a museum-styled archives area where your wonders and achievements are well displayed, a really cool way to see your past achievements in the game. And again, this is playable solo or multiplayer, allowing you to play with up to 3 other friends that are on the MetaQuest 3 or 3S headsets. And yes, in multiplayer, the other world leaders still do appear around your table in MR and VR. It is worth mentioning, I had a little bit of a technical hiccup that I was able to solve. And in speaking to other creators who had access to this, it wasn't a common issue. It was only a few of us that had these type of technical hiccups, and even to the point that I had some hiccups, but my dad's game, it ran fine. And it came down to what I found the issue was inside the headset settings on the mobile app. If you go to your devices and then hit headset settings, again in the mobile app, and then go to advanced settings, there's a setting in there called tracking frequency. It is defaultly on auto, but there's 2 other settings, 50 hertz and 60 hertz. For me, personally, when leaving it on auto, I was having an issue with jittering inside the game. Frame rate drops, lag, and worst of all, if I moved my head at all, my frame would stay where it is, and there was a couple seconds before it would ever catch up and move to where I needed to be. This created a very nauseating and jittery experience. However, due to the delays in moving my head before the frame caught up, this made me suspicious it was a tracking issue. So I went inside that setting and I changed it from auto to 60 hertz, as that's what's more commonly used in the USA. From that moment on, my issues went away. I still had occasional frame drops while in VR mode and moving my table board around. However, in MR mode, everything was butter smooth from there on. And again, in VR mode, it was 99% good once I adjusted the tracking frequency. So if you're of the small portion of users that has any of that tracking issues or those frame rate drops and lag, let me know if this worked for you. Again, I went in, I adjusted my tracking frequency from auto to 60 hertz, and it's been a butter smooth experience since. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. This is a title that I have wanted since day one. Again, longtime listeners to the podcast, there's years of us going back and requesting, begging for any game in the Civilization series to come to VR. And I always thought if they did it, it would be an older game, Civ 3, Civ 4, or a spin-off like Civilization Revolution. But instead, they have somehow managed to bring the full Civilization VII experience to VR, again, exclusively on the MetaQuest 3 and 3S. This one for me feels a lot less like a typical game release and a lot more like a milestone. It's the first time Civilization has entered the VR industry with either VR or MR, and they didn't just phone it in. This is a real and full Civilization VII experience on the MetaQuest. If you're a longtime fan of the series, or you just like strategy games, 4X games, this is the one for you. The Holy Grail. We have Civilization VII in VR on the MetaQuest 3 and 3S coming out April 10th for $59.99 US dollar on the MetaQuest store. Again, big shout out to Firaxis, 2K, and the MetaQuest Creator Program for providing us early access to Civilization VII VR. And if you want more coverage, gameplay, and tips, be sure to subscribe to the Ruff Talk VR podcast, available on YouTube and everywhere else podcasts are enjoyed. We'll be going much more in depth, even talking about a little multiplayer session we did the other day. And also, be sure to drop a comment in the YouTube video if you're getting Civilization VII VR. All right, we will check you out next time.